Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about a book that is so much more than just a story. It's a massive cultural phenomenon. I am, of course, talking about Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. Now, this is a book that people either see as this profound, life-altering guide, or, well, a pretty simple and totally overrated fable. And that's exactly the mystery we're going to try and solve today. So before we can even get into the debate, you first have to understand the sheer scale of this book's success. I mean, we're not just talking about a bestseller here. This thing is a global force. Just look at this number, over 90 million copies sold. It's been translated into 80 different languages, which actually makes Coelho the most translated living author out there. A book just doesn't hit numbers like that unless it's tapping into something really deep and universal. And yet, here's the crazy part. For every single person who swears this book changed their life, you'll find someone else who thinks it's just simplistic, maybe even a little cheesy. The reactions are completely polarized. It's either a work of spiritual genius, or it's a self-help book that's just pretending to be a novel. And that brings us to the big question, right? What is the secret? What's behind its incredible success and this really intense debate that it always seems to spark? Well, to figure that out, we've got to look at what makes the story tick. The entire novel, the whole thing, revolves around this one really powerful, really captivating idea, the personal legend. So what is a personal legend? Well, it's basically your life's purpose. It's your true calling. And the book's big argument is that finding and fulfilling this destiny is your one and only true obligation in life. And you can see why that's such an appealing idea, right? Especially today. In a world that can feel so chaotic, the whole concept of a personal legend gives your life a story, a mission. It suggests you're not just randomly drifting, but that there's a unique path you are meant to follow. And this idea is what drives the entire plot. We've got our hero, a shepherd boy named Santiago, who keeps having this recurring dream about finding treasure. He's told that this dream, well, that's his personal legend. So what does he do? He sells everything he owns, his whole flock of sheep, and sets off on this epic journey across the desert to Egypt to find it. And this brings us to probably the most famous line in the entire book. This right here is the central promise of The Alchemist. It's this idea that if you truly fully commit to your personal legend, the entire cosmos will literally bend over backwards to help you get there. It's an incredibly optimistic philosophy, but how exactly is this conspiracy supposed to work? This whole idea of the universe conspiring to help you, it might sound purely philosophical, maybe a little woo-woo, but some people have drawn connections to a very, very surprising field, quantum physics. Yeah, you heard that right. It turns out some academics have actually spotted a parallel between the book's mysticism and modern science. A research paper published in the Advanced Social Science Archives journal actually explores this link between the spiritual ideas in The Alchemist and the super strange world of quantum mechanics. So in the book, the force that makes the universe conspire is called the soul of the world. It's described as this spiritual energy that connects everything, and I mean everything, from people to the desert sand, and it's supposedly fed by our emotions, especially love. Okay, now hang with me for a second. In the real world of physics, there's a concept called quantum entanglement, sometimes called synchronization, and it describes how tiny particles can be linked in such a way that they affect each other instantly, no matter how far apart they are. This isn't science fiction, by the way. This is a real, observed thing. So, these researchers are basically arguing that the soul of the world is an allegory for this quantum interconnectedness. From their perspective, Santiago's journey isn't just a spiritual quest. It's a story where individual consciousness interacts with the universe to create fate. It's kind of a mind-bending interpretation, right? But of course, an idea like that doesn't come without its critics. Because for a lot of readers, all this talk of conspiring universes and personal legends, it feels less like some deep spiritual truth and a lot more like wishful thinking. So let's flip the coin and look at the other side of the argument. For the critics, one of the biggest problems is that Santiago's journey is, well, it's almost too smooth. Yeah, sure, he gets robbed, but then he almost immediately makes all his money back and then some. Every obstacle just seems to magically fix itself. They argue that this creates a totally unrealistic story, one that ignores the harsh realities of struggle and failure that define most of our real-life journeys. And a really great way to see this is to compare it to another famous spiritual quest, Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha. Just look at their views on struggle. The Alchemist says the universe helps you succeed. Siddhartha is rooted in the idea that suffering is a part of everything. Then look at the path to fulfillment. For Santiago, it's about an external goal, a physical treasure. For Siddhartha, it's all about achieving internal enlightenment. It really highlights two fundamentally different ways of looking at the world, one focused on achievement and the other on acceptance. So we have these two totally opposite views. It's either a profound spiritual allegory or it's a simplistic fairy tale. But what if they're both kind of missing the point? The real secret might actually be hiding in the book's famous twist ending. So after crossing an entire desert and finally reaching the pyramids in Egypt, Santiago learns that the treasure he was looking for was back in Spain the whole time. It was buried under the very sycamore tree where he had his first dream. He was literally sleeping on top of it from page 1. And this reveals the whole point. The physical gold was never the real treasure. The real treasure was the journey itself. All the wisdom he gained, the love he found, and the person he became while he was chasing his personal legend. He had to travel all that way just to understand what he already had right at home. This reminds me of this really profound comment I once saw from a reader online. They said, "I'm happy you found it boring. That means you already knew the message." And that just completely reframes the whole debate, doesn't it? And this, right here, is the secret. The Alchemist isn't powerful because its plot is super complex or because its philosophy is totally groundbreaking. No, it's powerful because it works like a mirror. Its value depends completely on the mental space of whoever's reading it. If you're feeling lost or stuck, its simple message can feel like a profound wake-up call. But if you're already on your path, it might just seem obvious. Its power isn't in what it says, but in how and when you hear it. Which really leaves us with just one final thought. The book's ultimate purpose isn't to give you all the answers, it's to make you ask the big question. So I'll just leave you with that. What's your personal legend? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.